Hi everyone, this is Mix from SneaksandBulkPH, and today we have the detailed review on the Nike KD15. Before we get started, if you do like the video, please make sure to leave a thumbs up down below. Then if you have any comments, questions, or any suggestions for future videos, please feel free to leave it in the comment section down below as well. Then I'll also be leaving a link to the SNBPH Sneaker Hunters Facebook group in the description box, so I do hope you can join us over there because that is a place where we talk about sneakers and basketball quite a bit, and it's also where we have the SNB Steel Cabinet, where I, as well as a lot of our other members, take some shoes that we no longer use and put them up for bidding at way below market value. And then lastly, if you haven't already, please do make sure to sub to the channel because it really does help us out quite a lot. The KD15 is definitely a super interesting addition to Kevin Durant's signature shoe line because for one, the launch colorway is just super out there and pretty quirky. I mean, honestly speaking, I really didn't want to get this colorway and I kind of wanted to wait it out. But of course, you know how it is given that we review shoes. You gotta just get the first colorway that comes out and of course try to be somewhat early to the party. Another interesting thing about the KD15 is, as you can see, it has a low collar height or a low cut, and we really haven't had a low cut KD signature shoe ever since the KD10. Of course, choosing between a high cut or low cut shoe is mostly just personal preference, but after talking to quite a few people about this shoe, I think it's safe to say that a large percentage of people are definitely happy that they chopped the collar down. Then another interesting thing about the KD15 is actually the box. Because it is an all black box, but if you look closely it does have that sort of bandana pattern, and I think this does a good job of representing KD and his time in Brooklyn. And of course you have your KD signature and your KD logo, but under the lid of the box you actually have his Easy Money Sniper logo along with some more of that bandana pattern. Then for the last interesting tidbit about the KD15 is that it was actually loosely inspired by the Nike Air Jet Flight. The Nike Air Jet Flight was a guard shoe in the early 2000s that a lot of Nike athletes used, such as Jason Kidd and ironically KD's coach, Steve Nash. So I think with those things in mind, even though the KD signature line is already up to 15 shoes, this is one of them that feels pretty unique and definitely stands out from the other 14. However, of course, at the end of the day, this still is a KD signature basketball shoe, and with that being said, I do have to hold it to the standard that's been set by shoes like the KD9, the KD12, the KD13, and the 14. So to see whether this shoe does have the potential to stack up with the best of the KD signature line, let's take a look at the tech specs. So starting off with the traction, you do have a full-length solid rubber outsole with this interesting pattern that sort of looks like a weather map with these irregular rounded shapes. It does have a bit of a resemblance to that Kobe 9 traction pattern, which is also kind of the same as the PG5s. And with that being said, after just trying it on here at home, I think it's gonna be a beast. I mean, I was just using it here at home, but it was gripping super well. And it also does have a pretty loud squeak, so if you're the type of person that kind of wants to hear their shoes, then this is definitely a good option. The rubber is a bit on the thin side and a little bit shallow, just like with the Kobe 9, but at least you do have an XDR outsole, at least if you buy these in Asia. I still wouldn't highly recommend these for purely outdoor use though, because there really isn't that much rubber on the outsole, and the grooves are also just overall really soft. On indoor courts though, I do think these will last, and will definitely keep you sticking to the court like glue. Then moving on to the cushion, the Nike KD15 does have a full-length Cushlon midsole, with a full-length Zoom Strobel unit right underneath the insole. I was just a tiny bit disappointed with the cushion on the KD15, just because from what I heard from all of the leaks, they were gonna use full-length React, and I was pretty excited and pretty intrigued as to how that would feel. Of course, now having the retail pair in hand, I mean, Cushlon is really nice. I mean, it's pretty soft, it has a good bounce back, but it's still nowhere near as lightweight as React and nowhere near as responsive. So in the end, I do kind of just have that what if at the back of my mind, because I think it would have been really amazing had they put React in the shoe. But of course, the main component of the cushion that you feel right away, and the one that you'll really feel once you start jumping and you start running, would be the Zoom Strobel. The Nike Zoom Strobel unit in the KD15 feels pretty standard and pretty much the same as what you would find on the GT series. It's super bouncy and responsive, and you can really feel it under your foot. And in the end, there's just really nothing like it in the market today. I think Nike definitely understands that Zoom Strobel is something that's kind of like an ace up their sleeve, because I mean, they have been using it on the KDs, they've listed on the LeBron, the GT series, so I think they're just really maximizing it, and as a big fan of zoom strobel in general, I'm definitely not complaining. The cushion overall on the KD15 is really good. It's pretty similar to the KD14 and the KD13. You have nice plushness and comfort, good impact protection from the foam, and of course that responsiveness and bounciness and just that zoomy feeling, for lack of a better term, from the zoom strobel unit. Then moving on to the materials, the Nike KD15 does have a pretty much all textile upper that is pretty similar to last year's shoe, KD14. However, even if on paper the KD15 and KD14 share a lot of the same materials, I do feel like the meshes and the textiles they used on the KD15 are overall a bit softer out the box. So starting off with the materials here at the forefoot and the midfoot, you have this dual layer mesh with a thicker and more padded mesh underneath and a very thin, light and breathable layer on top. This part of the shoe is definitely very flexible and actually conforms to your foot well, and once you do get moving in the shoe, it should definitely be able to flex in whichever way you need it. Then moving on to the back of the shoe or the heel of the shoe, you have this pretty soft and smooth textile. It's not exactly felt and it's not exactly like neoprene, it's kinda somewhere in between. And though it does feel pretty nice to the touch, this is one of those materials that I think will get pretty dirty and will also be pretty hard to clean without damaging the materials. Then moving on to the tongue, it does have two layers as well. You have the outer layer of screen mesh, which is pretty much just there for durability, and then underneath that you do have neoprene for padding, and it also has a lot of circular cutouts for ventilation. Then moving on to the other materials, you do have some nylon here on the pull tab at the heel, as well as here on a couple of the eyelets. You also do have a pretty padded and smooth neoprene sock liner, and of course you do have quite a bit of rubbery plastic here at the midfoot cage on the lateral and medial side. Overall, the materials aren't really anything to write home about in terms of the quality. There isn't any leather, there aren't any suedes, but it is definitely really functional and it feels really comfy. I mean, you do have that soft forefoot that moves well with your foot, that padded and breathable tongue, and that very supportive heel and midfoot. Then moving on to fit and sizing, I did go true to size with the Nike KD15, and it definitely fits a little bit narrow. KD signature shoes have definitely always been pretty notorious for being narrow, because I mean, like, for the nth time, have you seen Kevin Durant's feet? They're basically hockey sticks disguised as feet, so it's no wonder why most of his signature shoes fit narrow. So for my recommendation on the sizing, if you have a narrow foot, go true to size. But then if you have a normal width foot, go up half a size. And if you have a wide foot, you might want to try going up half a size. Or if you want to play it super safe, you might even want to consider going up a full size. Then moving on to the aesthetic details, there are definitely quite a few tidbits on the shoe that I think are very unique to the KD15. So starting off with the outsole, you do have solid rubber all throughout, but you do have alternating bands of neon green, purple, yellow, red, and blue. You also do have a KD logo here at the heel. Then here at the midfoot, you do have this blue midfoot shank plate with some air zoom branding, but it also has quite a few cutouts that allow you to see the zoom strobel underneath. Then moving on to the midsole, that cushion is all lime green, and then here at the lateral side of the midfoot, you do have some air zoom branding. Then moving on to the upper, it is basically all lime green, but interestingly enough, it does have a sort of darker shade here on the tongue and laces. Then of course you do have that plastic midfoot cage on the lateral and medial side, but with the one here on the lateral side, you do have that same weather map pattern as the outsole that's sort of etched in around the Nike swoosh. Then speaking of that Nike swoosh, it is on that midfoot cage, and it has a pretty interesting graffiti pattern and color. Then for your other bits of branding, you do have KD's signature here at the tip of the toe, KD's logo in pink here at the top of the tongue. Then here at the back of the shoe, you do have that Easy Money Sniper logo here at the heel tab, and then on the rubber that comes up at the heel, you have KD's number 7 in lime green, and you have some text that reads "Quality Inspired" by Kevin Durant. Then moving on to the overall aesthetics, it is such a unique and quirky looking shoe, which definitely could be both a good thing or a bad thing. On the good side, like I said, it's super unique, and it really stands out, especially comparing it to other shoes out in the market today. On the other end of the spectrum though, given that really unique shape for the midfoot cage, the unique side profile overall, the narrow toe down view, and the low cut, it might not be everyone's cup of tea, and I'm definitely one of those who isn't really too high on the overall aesthetics of the KD15. I mean, of course, if I'm gonna use these on court, I think they work perfectly fine. However, personally, I really wouldn't use this for anything outside of the court, because it just looks a little bit too quirky for my taste. And I also think the colorway doesn't help because it is so bright and it is so neon green. I mean, I might just end up liking it, for example, if it's a black and white one, or if they put it on Nike by You and they allow us to customize the colorways to our liking. Then moving on to the price, the Nike KD15 retails for 8,095 pesos here in the Philippines or $160 US. I think this shoe is definitely worth that 160 if for one you are a KD fan, 2 if you like the overall aesthetic and the look of the shoe, or 3 if you want a low-cut shoe that's very supportive here at midfoot with a full-length zoom Strobel unit. These have already released here in the Philippines, but unfortunately this is the only colorway available. But you can get these over at the Nike Philippines website, which is where I got mine, or you could go to any of your local Nike stores. You can also get these over at Titan, whether from their app, their website, or their physical stores. Then if you do live in the US, unfortunately there isn't an exact release date yet, but as of right now, I think they'll release these sometime early in June. So there you have it guys, that was my detailed review on the Nike KD15. Once again, if you do like the video, please make sure to leave a thumbs up down below. Then if you haven't already yet, please do make sure to subscribe to the channel and click that bell icon for notifications. And as always, whether you're looking for that retail win or you're watching the playoffs because you got swept in the first round, just keep on hunting.